Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Sunny Bonnell, welcome to the conversation today.
Hey, happy to be here.
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from South Carolina. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about culture and visionary leadership. I love these topics, so I'm super excited to explore this with you. I think we could spend all day discussing these things because it really is the foundation for just about everything we do, both in our personal lives and at work. So as we're trying to just live the good life, as we're trying to, have happy homes and live in healthy relationships, but also as we're trying to be productive people and have good teams at work and be effective leaders, it all comes back to having healthy dynamic cultures and having visionary leadership in our approaches. So this is what we're going to unpack and try to explore together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Sunny's bio with everybody. Sunny Bonnell is a leadership and brand expert and the visionary co-founder and CEO of Motto, a strategic brand transformation agency helping the world's most innovative companies advance into their next era, and the best-selling author of The Rare Breed, a guide to success for the defiant, dangerous, and different. And I'll just say, I love that title of that book, and we probably will talk a little bit about that as we go through the conversation today as well. And there's a whole lot more I could talk about in terms of your background, your bio, but I'm going to pause there. Anything else you would like to highlight by way of your background, personal context before we dive on in?
Probably a little bit of context as I started my company with my co-founder when we were in our early 20s. We dropped out of college to start Motto with $250 and really grew it very grassroots and, rolled up your sleeves and did it the hard way, I guess, suppose. And, really have built something that has allowed us to focus in on something that we're incredibly passionate about, which is working with great iconic minds, the innovators of our time, and really helping them wrestle their vision forward and do that in a way that at the heart of everything that we do has a signature idea that really sits at the heart of the brand and makes it famous. And I think we've become the very best at being able to pull that out through companies and allow them to mobilize teams around it and cultures around it and get everybody really fired up to, launch their innovation or bring their big idea to the world.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And I always love hearing the origin stories of businesses and entrepreneurial endeavors. So that in and of itself is fascinating to me. And starting something bootstrapping with $250 in and of itself is just a compelling story. So that's awesome. I've done that kind of thing myself, bootstrapping all sorts of different initiatives and ideas and different business efforts. So more power to you. Awesome. Good work. And now let's dive on in and start with maybe not like textbook or dictionary definitions, but just kind of exploring, what do you mean when you think of culture, when you think of visionary leadership? How do you make sense of those terms? And then we can start to really apply what that means in the world of business in kind of real life terms.
Well, I think that you have to look at it as two parts, and they both influence each other in really important ways. First is your culture, the culture that you intentionally build and sometimes unintentionally build. The way that we like to look at it is the culture that you build today is the company that you have tomorrow. And if you're looking for innovation thrives on conflict, not comfort. So, when we're working with teams, it's really the encouragement of the clash of ideas, not necessarily the echo of agreement that you're looking for. And what drives that? Then the question becomes, what drives that type of innovation? What drives that kind of culture? Well, that's the visionary leader. That's somebody that sits at the top of the company usually, and forecast a vision of the future of the world that they hope to build. And their number one job is to get everybody excited about that, understand the mountain that everybody's trying to climb, and what flag are we trying to put on the top of that mountain? What does that mountain even look like? Where are we going? And so when you think of those two dynamics, they're incredibly important because the success of each of those things depend on one another. If you have a strong visionary at the helm, they need to be able to articulate like where are we going and why are we going there? And then the culture needs to be driven by not only people who can achieve that vision and realize that vision, but also who can kind of steady the bottom of the ship, keep the engines running. You need both. And so that's how we like to think of it when we're working with teams, or at least that's our definition of it, that motto.
Thank you. You use that word motto, and maybe that comes back, of course, to your company, the name of your company. Tie that back in to the work that you're doing and why you are so passionate about culture and visionary leadership as it relates to that motto.
Well, motto is a rally cry. It's a purpose. It's a cause. It's a belief. They've been around since the beginning of time. They're etched over castle doorways. They're still in some of the greatest schools on earth. They were emblazoned on the chests of warriors. They are on the flag of the home. The crest, the home, whatever you're trying to protect and serve. And so that name in particular was very meaningful to us, because what we wanted to do when we started was we wanted to help encapsulate the purpose and the cause and the belief of the companies that we worked with. We found that was very empowering and exciting. It was more so that we were driven by what our clients believed in. What problem were they trying to solve? What were they fighting for? Perhaps even fighting against. And that really drove the meaning of the company and the word for why we named it motto. My co-founder and co-CEO is an incredible, brilliant triple threat. She's a brilliant namer, and she's the one who came up with that name. And it was only one of like a few names that we had come up with. And it just really resonated with not only what we kind of align ourselves to, but the kind of work we wanted to do for businesses. That has now, that was 2005. We've now transformed into working with some of the biggest brands on earth. We've worked with everybody from the Minnesota Vikings to Microsoft to Google to Hershey's to the NFL. We've worked with, some of the greatest icons of our time. And we've also worked with the folks that are trying to disrupt that and to challenge that and to challenge tradition. And the thing that we've really found is that at the heart of every one of these companies, they were founded on or perhaps created by a visionary who saw an opportunity to change the conversation, to change the dialogue. And that's what we do for businesses now. We find that big war cry that they have within the company, and we help drive it through the culture, and we drive it through the brand and help realize it for them, whether it's a new innovation that they're launching or if they're a new company and they're trying to enter the market. What is the thing that they are trying to say? And how do we create the language around that so that it becomes this kind of short, pithy war cry, battle cry that you can use to not only drive the people that work for you, but drive the people that are going to support and buy from you. And so we really believe that that message is one of the most potent things that you can have within an organization.
What have been some of the biggest challenges that you've seen? Maybe the biggest pitfalls, kind of roadblocks that people kind of fall into over and over again as they're trying to come up with their visionary motto?
I think that the biggest challenge that they have is they are not willing or able to be as innovative as they hope that they will be. So for a lot of organizations, they have this sense of we need to be more innovative. We want to be more innovative. And you kind of examine the culture and you learn about who they are, and you find that there's not actually innovation at the DNA of their business. And so they're trying to be something that they're not. And I think that that's very inauthentic. And so we've been in companies of all shapes and sizes where that has been true on both spectrums, meaning we've worked with companies where like Virgin, where innovation and disruption is at the heart of everything they do. It stems from Richard Branson right down to
Yeah.
the pillars of the company. And then you have other companies that we've worked with in the past that are very traditionally minded, traditionally set, and pulling them out of that is a feat. It is like turning a ship, completely around, and they don't have it in them. And so you can't, as a company, be able to do that unless the very fabric of who they are is actually built and wired that way. So, I think the biggest challenge is trying to be something that you're not.
Being aspirational, that's important. I think
Absolutely.
so. Anytime you're being visionary, there's an element of being aspirational, shooting for the stars, right? Not being stuck in the past and not being stuck, not being limiting in your vision for the future. So there's always that element of challenging yourself, right? But
Right.
at the same time, it has to be reasonable and it has to be something that's consistent with your values and with kind of genuinely with who you are, is what I'm hearing you say. And so a lot of times people are reaching for something that is just inconsistent. It's inconsistent with your values, it's inconsistent with what you're actually trying to do. It's not genuine, right? So you're not actually going to be trying to do it, perhaps.
That's
So
right.
it's really just PR. It's surface dressing. It's not real, I
Yeah, they
guess.
can't live up to the expectation that they've set. And then you
Yeah.
have companies that can and do. And there's a significant difference between the two of them. They operate very differently. And we see this because we work with executive leadership teams all the time. I mean, for the past 19 years, we have worked with some of, as I said, some of the brightest minds, the most iconic minds, innovation teams, people who are really on the cutting edge of like whatever they are on the brink of doing. And aspiration is good. You have to paint a picture of the future that you hope to achieve. You have to get people excited about where you're going. But if you fundamentally aren't built that way, it's just a stretch to get you there. All that said, vision without flexibility is delusion. The future, in my opinion, belongs to those that who dream with their eyes wide open. They adapt without hesitation. And at its core, a visionary leader, they have to be an adaptable leader because it's important to be clear. It's important to have compelling vision for where the company is headed, but it's also equally important to make sure that you are agile and flexible in how you get there, because there isn't a path to the moon that's just an easy one. It's
Yeah.
it's filled with and fraught with a lot of challenges, a lot of detours and things where you have to be able to navigate those things when you're trying to do anything of significance. And it's also being responsive to things like industry shifting, which is happening around everybody at the moment. Every company is going through incredible industry shifts, and you have to be open to all levels of feedback from the organization. So when you're encouraging a culture where your team can suggest changes and innovations that really align with the goals, leaders have to ensure that they have a psychologically safe organization that is not only open to those ideas, but they can pivot and use those opportunities or challenges as they arise. So
Mhm.
it's kind of both. I mean, we see companies that are determined to be innovative and they do innovation in their own small ways. But then you have some companies where, they're taking gigantic leaps. They're doing
Yeah.
things in ways that are just absolutely mind blowing. And you have to pay attention to the significant differences between them, and know ultimately who you're working with and what team you're actually a part of. That's also important down to the employee side. What kind of organization do you want to work for and work with? Do you want to hum along? Do you want to be pushed and prodded and developed in a way where you're stretching your own capacity? That's very that's an individual experience for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned the psychological safety piece, and that's one of many elements that I think are part of that culture that you've been talking about. Maybe we can unpack that a little bit more. So psychological safety is vital. Having the aspirational vision, of course, is wonderful. But you have, like you said, you have to have a strategy, you have to have steps to be able to help you get there, and you have to have the culture that's supportive of that strategy and those steps that's going to allow you to achieve, that vision. So the psychological safety is an important component of that culture. What are some other core elements of that culture that are going to help you to achieve that?
Well, I think that for a lot of leadership, it goes beyond just making sure that every individual feels safe and valued for their distinct contributions. It involves far more than just listening. It's about actively engaging with your teammates and your team members, their ideas, their perspectives. At Motto, we believe an idea can come from anyone, and we encourage that. We sign off every meeting with "Do big things." That's our war cry.
I like that.
And we embed it into every bit of our organization, so that people that come to work here, they know that we're going to push them to do big things, that we expect them to do big things. And so leaders have to facilitate, environments where not only are differences celebrated through, recognition and rewarding those unique problem-solving approaches, but we also have to build systems and development plans to enhance each individual's strengths, because every person on your team has a zone of genius. And sometimes we want them to be good at everything. Like, we hire somebody and we're like, oh, they're weak over here, they're not as talented as we want them to be there. It's our job to make sure that we are squeezing every ounce of potential out of that person, and that we're also giving opportunities to shine, to be rewarded, to be seen. Because why would you spend all this time in an organization where you feel like you're a minion and you have no visibility, you have no growth, you have nowhere to go? It is our responsibility. If you ask people to come and build the thing that you need them to build, then you need to find ways to make sure that not only are you really lasering in on who they are, but you're building their leadership skills so that you can grow them. It's ultimately going to make your culture happier. You're going to have people who feel valued, and it's going to lead to more innovative outcomes.
Yeah, I like that. And, sometimes when people talk about, squeezing every last ounce of potential and productivity out of somebody, that can come across as exploitative. It can come across as, I don't know, austere or whatever, but that's not what you're talking about at all. You're talking about empowering. You're talking about helping people reach and achieve potential in a way that, is helping them grow and helping them achieve, so that, they're not only excelling in their current job, but they're growing into their next job and achieving in their career. And there's a huge difference in that motive, I think. In both cases, you're as a company and as a leader, you're getting great things out of your employees. And in both cases, the company is achieving great outcomes. But in one case, you're burning through people, you're stepping on people, and you're burning out people. And in the other case, you're empowering people, you're enlivening people, and people are growing and becoming more committed, more loyal, and you're actually going to get more and more. Like, it almost becomes an untapped, a continuous wellspring of more and more. And even when people move on in their career, they move on to new jobs. You have goodwill, you have word of mouth, you can recruit new good people, etc. There's a huge difference, right? Even though
100%.
Even though in both cases you really are, getting tons out of your people.
Yeah, but what you're talking about there is not what I'm getting at.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about there is a bit of an abuse of good talent and power, and just kind of driving your team to the point that they're miserable and are unhappy. That's not the any kind of culture I would advocate. I think what you have to also look at on the flip side, though, is the number one reason that people leave companies is because of a couple of things. One, untapped potential. So
Mhm.
I could flip that around and say, but if you don't squeeze the potential out of the people that you have, you also run the risk of having people feel that there is untapped potential and that you
Yeah.
never actually dipped into the full well of who they are. I would argue that that's what you should be focused on. Meaning when I use that word, you're trying to basically ensure that this person is truly fulfilled. You have to dip down into the well of that individual and say, what are they capable of? And oftentimes, quite frankly, in even high performing cultures and innovative cultures, I would argue that there's more to give, and sometimes we don't even know our capacity.
Yeah.
It sometimes requires others to be able to encourage it and bring it out of. I'll give you an example. I had someone that came and is still on our team to this day, has been on our team for a few years. And when she, started working with us, she was quite shy, very quiet, didn't like to do client presentations, didn't want to be in front of the client, didn't feel comfortable. She's got a bit of an accent, and she was, quite frankly, like, she had this so much potential, and she was kind of dimming the light ever so slightly, and probably
Mhm.
because of nerves. And I kept giving her opportunities within small settings where she could have little wins and
Mhm.
continue to build that confidence. So we did it in the safety of our own environment, where we said, "Hey, let's have you pitch to the team." Then she did that a bunch, and then we were like, "Okay, walk us through your ideas for this particular logo concept or identity concept," and she'd do a little bit of that. And now she's one of our top presenters. We got her a coach. She's worked with an incredible, he's sort of an orator, but he teaches teams, people on teams, how to be better presenters and deliver their ideas more succinctly. And she's phenomenal now. And like, if I think back to, had she allowed herself to think in that way and been allowed to think that way, she never would have been able to grow to the potential that she has now. And so I like to think of any type, when you have anybody on your team, it's about, how do you become a mentor and a coach? How do you realize their full potential? How do you really actually understand their zone of genius and give them opportunities where, in both small and really significant ways, that, even if they fail, they don't feel the risk of being cast out, being fired, being let go because they tried and they didn't do a good job. Of course, there's lines that can be blurred around all of that,
Yeah.
but I truly, truly believe that people leave because of bad leadership, and they leave because of untapped potential, and they feel the grass is greener on the other side because someone under their purview didn't recognize this person to their full attributes. And so I know every leader struggles with this, but I try incredibly hard to know every single person on my team. I try to identify what within them is very unique and different and special. How do I give them opportunities to do things that they're not super comfortable with, but then can surprise themselves? And then how do you continue to mentor and coach that individual to lift them up to the very best that they can be every day, and ultimately love their job? Because why do you want to work at a place you don't love?
Yeah, yeah, I love that, and I love that distinction, because I really do think there's a huge difference in the manipulative, abusive,
Yes.
exploitative approach and what you're describing. Huge, huge difference, and employees know the difference. They
Oh, they
know
absolutely do. They absolutely
they
do. And yeah, I mean, we've had teammates that, thought have, maybe they've decided that they wanted to go to, try something new in a different field, and they've come back. And the reason that they've come back is because they're like, I grew under you and your and Ashley's leadership. You helped me grow. You mentored me. I miss the people. I want to be around the culture. I want to continue to be in an environment where I'm seen and felt and appreciated. And that goes so long in as far as building innovation and trying to get a team that will work very hard to do things that even surprise themselves, and working hard shouldn't be mixed up with, what you were talking about there. I think,
yeah, yeah,
there's a lot of people. I work really hard. I think a lot of people on my team, and probably even your team, everybody works pretty hard, gives themselves and commits themselves. And I think you do that because you love what you do. You want to be the best at what you do. And you found a group of people that you feel like they're working shoulder to shoulder with you to do big things. And I think when you find that, it's very, very magical. But to your point, I think it's quite rare.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, I note the time. This has just been a fantastic conversation. We could go on and on and on, I think, all day. I love this topic, but I also know I need to let you go. So as we start to wrap up, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Sure. So you can find me at linkedin.com/Sunny Bonnell. You can find our company motto at wearemotto.com. Instagram /wearemotto, also on LinkedIn at motto. And trying to think of anywhere else you can find us. Oh, you can get the book on Amazon. So Rare Breed, Guide to Success for the Defiant, Dangerous, and Different. If you're thinking about purpose and you're thinking about how to instill purpose within your organization and vision within your organization, something that I like to share with people is purpose. Think of purpose as the invisible leader in the room. It guides when no one is watching, and it inspires when everybody is doubting. And great leadership is articulating that compelling vision. It serves as that unifying force within your organization. And the vision or that purpose, it must resonate at every single level, top to bottom, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to turn everyday tasks into steps towards a much grander achievement. And the way that you do that is through people, and people support what they help build. So the more that you can involve them, the more that you can inspire them, the better kind of company you will have and the greater things that you will do.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. This has just been a true pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Sunny can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.